Welcome again to our Bible study here at Christian Pentecostal Church. I'm Pastor John Carlos, Senior Pastor. We've been studying the steps of Jesus from his birth all the way to his ascension, looking at all of the places he's been, what he says to people, how he relates to people, and how they relate to him. Last week we left off in the 8th chapter of John, where Jesus has one of many discussions. Usually, unfortunately, they weren't just discussions, but they were usually in a negative sense, by the clergy at the time, the Pharisees. In verse 33 in John 8, we see their statements about who they are and how they're trying to put Jesus down. It goes on to say, "We be of Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, ye shall be made free?" Jesus had said to them just before that, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." He came to bring the truth to the church, because what had happened to the early church, the synagogue, they had become religious, and they used religion as a power over the people, and in many cases abusing the people in many areas of their lives, with the temple tax and the fact that they literally could have sent you to death if they didn't like what you did or said. So Jesus here is confronting them on these types of issues. The next thing he says to them is, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin." Now he's talking to the clergy, the priests. "And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abideth forever." And he's talking about himself. And again, he says the same thing. "If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. I know," he says, "that you are Abraham's seed, but ye seek to kill me, because my word hath no place in you." What Jesus was teaching and what Jesus was saying, it shook the church, because they were like masters over slaves. And Jesus came to set them free from religion to a relationship with God. "I speak," verse 38 says, "that which I have seen with my Father, and ye do that which you have seen with your father." Now listen carefully. "And they answered him and said, Abraham is our father. Jesus saith unto them, If you were Abraham's children, ye would do the works of Abraham." This is an insult. "And now you seek to kill me, a man that hath told you the truth, which I have heard of God. This did not Abraham." Literally, he is calling them what? Liars. And he is calling them, we're going to see, as children, not of God, but of Satan. Wow. "They said unto him, we not be born of fornication. We have one Father, even God." And Jesus again says to them, "If God were your Father, you would love me. For I proceeded forth and came from God, neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Even because you cannot hear my word." And again, he's not talking physically here, but spiritually. They could not hear his word. They couldn't understand it, and they didn't want to. And here it comes, verse 44. Now think of this. These are the leaders of the temple. And Jesus, a rabbi, a teacher, tells them this: "Ye are of your father, the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do." In other words, you're doing the devil's business. "He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I tell you the truth, ye believe not. Which of you confesseth me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do ye not believe me? He that is of God heareth God's words. Therefore ye hear him not, because ye are not of God." Wow. Now again, he's talking to very powerful people, and he is destroying them spiritually. In the next verse, they answered, right? They were taking all of this re-instruction, and now all of a sudden they come back. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, say we are not well, that thou art a Samaritan. You're a Samaritan. Hold on to that. And hast the devil. Now, Samaritan was an insult, the way it's said. The Samaritan were the offspring of people who had been taken to Babylon hundreds of years before, taken as children. And you know the story of Daniel, Shadrach, and Abednego. And at some point they were released to come back to Israel, but not the same people. These are the children of the children of the children of those who had been sent. But because they had intermarried and had become Babylonians in a lot of ways, they brought back with them a kind of different religion. It was half God and half other things. And the Jewish people hated them so much that they would have nothing to do with them, physically, business-wise, anything. And if you look at the map, you have Judea, you have Israel. In the middle is where the Samaritans lived. When they traveled north to south or south to north, they would go all the way out of their way not to pass through Samaria, not to have anything to do with these people. And this is what they say, or they accuse Jesus of. You're a Samaritan and you have a devil. Jesus answered, I am not a devil, but I honor my Father, and ye do dishonor me. And I seek not mine own glory. There is one that seeketh and judgeth. Truly, truly, I say unto you, if a man keep any my saying, he shall never see death. Wow. Again, these Jewish leaders come back. And then they said unto him, now we know that thou hast the devil. Abraham is dead and the prophets. And thou sayest, if a man keep my saying, he shall never taste of death. Art thou greater than our father Abraham, which is dead, and the prophets are dead? Whom makest thou thyself? Who are you? And Jesus answers, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honoreth me, of whom ye say that he is your God. Yet ye have not known him. Wow. But I know him. And if I should say I know him not, I shall be a liar like unto you, like you. But I know him, and keep his saying. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, because prophetically, he was from the seed of Abraham as well. And he saw it, and he was glad. Then the Jews make an interesting mistake. Then said the Jews unto him, thou art yet 50 years old. Jesus was only about 31 or 32 at the time, right? And thou hast seen Abraham? Abraham had been long dead. And he said unto them, truly, truly, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Now this is grammatically incorrect. This is grammatically incorrect. Do you remember when Moses asked God, who are you? And he said, I am that I am. This is an interesting phrase. It means I always were. I am. He's telling them that he's God in the flesh. And look at their response. They took up stones to cast at him, to kill him. But Jesus hid himself. I love this. This is sci-fi. He became the invisible man. And it says he went out of the temple where all this was going on, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. Wow. They were looking to kill him, and he walked right past them, and they didn't see him. Wow. In chapter 9, again, we see another one of the recorded miracles. Remember we said this before? There are many miracles that are recorded specifically in our study and in the Bible. But there are hundreds, maybe thousands, that were not recorded specifically by what happened, where it happened, and so on. We see that many times when we read that many other miracle signs and wonders were done when Jesus was with crowds and with other groups of people. But here we see a particular miracle, and we're going to see, again, the clergy, instead of rejoicing that this man is healed, try to make a negative issue out of it. As we open chapter 9 of John, it says, "And Jesus passed by, and he saw a man who was blind from his birth." In other words, he had never been able to see. And his disciples asked him, "Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Apparently it was kind of a, what could we say, a rumor, something that people thought was true, that because somebody in your family sinned, you would be born with some kind of disease or some kind of impairment. And the disciples, growing up in this atmosphere, apparently believed it. And they were wondering how this man was always blind. Look at Jesus' answer. "Neither hath this man sinned," he wasn't blind because he sinned, "nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. This man from his very birth was created to show God manifesting himself in the life of Jesus." And then he says, "I must work the works of him that sent me while it is yet day. The night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." And we know this has been said many times in the Bible, that we also, because of Christ, become the light of the world as well. We bring light into dark places, physical places, and we also bring light into people's lives who are in darkness. Sometimes people don't like that. They want to live a lie. I'm not this, I'm not that. But when the light of Christ comes on them, they see who they really are. And that can be a very scary situation. And Jesus does something very odd. We know he's healed blind people before, but you'll notice here and in other places, he doesn't do it the same way. Just to show us that there is not a specific cure, even a saying that's going to heal people. It's the Spirit of God that does the healing. But look what he does. After he had spoken these words, "I'm the light of the world," he spits on the ground. And he makes a little spittle, mixing the clay with his spit. And he took it and anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And he said to him, "Go wash yourself off in the pool of Siloam," which is by interpretation the word sent. Now the pool of Siloam was an interesting place. It was part of the water system of Jerusalem and the temple. It also many times was used to wash the sacrifices so they would be clean, especially when you brought the sacrifice from a long distance to the temple. But the man went his way. He's blind now. I don't know whether someone helped him get there or somehow he finds his way to the pool of Siloam. And it says he went there and he washed his face, his eyes, and he came seeing. He comes back to where Jesus was. This time, he sees it. He sees Jesus for the first time. Then Jesus said unto them, because he came back healed, and I'm assuming that everybody that knew him knew that he had been blind. The neighbors, therefore, and they that which had seen him, that he was blind, said, isn't this he that sat and begged? And some said, yeah, that's the guy. That's he. Others said, he is like him, but he said, I am he. this is interesting. Here's a blind man, right? Now he can see. Apparently, he wasn't a child. And these people had seen him staggering along every day. We don't know whether he had a piece of stick with him, something to guide him, or how he got from places to the other places. But they see the result of the miracle and they don't understand what happened. This is the blind guy. You sure it's him? Looks like him. Even the way he looked changed. Now think about it. When you look at somebody with their eyes closed and then their eyes are open, there is a difference. But they were looking more, not just for the eyes, but the guy was walking. He didn't need the stick anymore. He didn't need someone holding on to his hands and so on. And the man answered the crowd. He said, a man that is called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and I received my sight. Then they said unto him, where is he? And the man said, I know not. They brought him to the Pharisees. Remember, we had said this before. The Pharisees, the religious people, were not only the priests, they were also the doctors. In the sense that if a person had some type of disease or infirmity, in order to be clean, declared clean, they had to examine him and attest to the fact that he was no longer a leper, no longer a blind person, no longer whatever the disease or the infirmary was. And again, look at these religious people. And it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes. In other words, instead of saying, oh my God, this man used to be the blind guy begging, and he's healed. Now they're looking for little things to accuse Jesus of. He healed him on the Sabbath. Wow, a felony, right? Do you think the blind man cared what day of the week it was? Once I was blind, now I see, right? And again, they interrogate him. How did you receive your sight? What happened? And he tells them the same story. How he received his sight, about how the clay was put on his eyes and washed and he could see. And look at verse 16. Therefore said some of the Pharisees, this man is not of God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath day. Instead of rejoicing over the man's healing, they're looking to accuse Jesus of violating a rule or a law. How can a man that is a sinner, look at this, do such miracles? Because he had done it on the Sabbath, he sinned. And therefore he is now a sinner, right? But there was division among them. Thank God for that. They were arguing. I'm sure somebody was saying, what are you talking about? The guy used to be a blind guy. We know this guy. This is not a scam. This guy was blind. We know him for years. And he's not blind anymore. Why would we accuse somebody of being a sinner if he helped this man see? Right? And they say unto the blind man again, what sayest thou of him? The guy that healed you. What do you say about him? That he had opened thine eyes. He said, he's a prophet. But the Jews did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind. This is amazing. They couldn't accept the fact that this blind man was healed. And now what they're saying, this was all an act. Him and Jesus got together and they came up with this whole story. But the Jews did not believe concerning him that he had been blind and received his sight until they called his parents to him. And they verified it. That's our son. He's been blind since birth and now he can see. Wow. The evidence, right? And they go on and they ask them, is this your son? Are you sure this is him, the same guy who you say was born blind? How then can he see now? Now the parents are assuming they weren't there when the miracle happened. His parents said to them, we know that this is our son and that he was born blind. That's a fact. But by what means he now seeth, they say, we know not. Or who hath opened his eyes? We know not. He is of age. Ask him. He's a man. He'll speak for himself. I love their answer. These words spake his parents because they feared the Jews. Remember, the Jewish priests had a lot of power and authority over the people. For the Jews had already agreed that if any man did confess that he was the Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. Therefore said his parents, he is of age, ask him. Then again they called the man that was blind and said unto him, give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner. I love the blind man's answer. And said this, whether he be a sinner or not, I know not. One thing I know, that whereas I was blind, now I see. I love his answer. I don't know the guy. I can't vouch for the guy, but all I know, I did what he asked me to do, and now I can see. Wow. Then they said to him again, what did he to thee? What did he do? What did he do? Now they already asked him this question. And he answered, I told you already, and ye didn't hear. Wherefore would ye hear it again? Will ye also be his disciples? Wow. Blind man's got some chutzpah. Then they reviled him. Now they got insulted. Thou art his disciple, but we are Moses' disciples. Now remember, they had implied that Jesus was what? The devil, or of the devil. We know that God spake unto Moses. As for this fellow, we know not from whence he is. The man answered and said unto them, why, herein is a marvelous thing. Right? If anybody should know about the miracle, it's him, the one that received it. That ye know not from whence he is. And yet he hath opened my eyes. That's a fact. Now we know, listen to this man, that God heareth not sinners. But if any man be a worshiper of God and doth his will, him will he hear. Ooh, this man is a pastor already, talking the Bible back right to these religious leaders. Wow. Since the world began, was it not heard that if any man opened the eyes of one, that he was born blind? If this man were not of God, he could do nothing. Now here is the blind beggar preaching to the church leaders. And again they answered unto him, thou wast together born in sins, and dost thou teach us? And they cast him out. Get out. Isn't it amazing? Here's a tremendous miracle with proof. And religious men, instead of praising God, they're looking to hang somebody. Even the guy who was healed. It's almost like when Peter and John walk into the temple and they pass by the man that is asking for alms. And this one day, they stopped and they looked at him, and Peter and John said to him, in the name of Jesus, rise up and walk. Now the man didn't get up. Read it carefully. Peter took him by the hand and lifted him up. This man had never walked. His legs and maybe even his arms were atrophied, all twisted, the muscles. When Peter lifted him up, that man went through rehab. Because it says when he got up, now remember, this guy never walked. He didn't grow up learning how to walk from his parents and so on. He had never walked. He gets up and he's running and jumping all over the place. I would have been the same way if I was him. Imagine all your life you're watching people walk by and the dust of their shoes is coming in your face. People looking at you with that pitiful look. And he gets up and he's so happy. And of course, the religious rabbis come out of the temple. What's all the noise about, right? Here's the funny part. They have Peter and John arrested, and the man who was healed arrested. That is so stupid. I mean, this was a miracle witnessed by everybody who was in that courtyard, in that temple place. They all knew this guy. And now he's running and jumping. He's so happy. And he gets arrested for being healed. That's how dark the clergy were. They couldn't even see and appreciate a miracle before their eyes. A miracle that they had walked by the same guy every day. I don't know if they ever prayed for him, but they knew he was a person who never walked. And now they see him walking, not only walking, running, jumping. Man, he was playing basketball, right? And they have him arrested. It doesn't make any sense. When Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and when he had found him, imagine Jesus goes and looking for him now. And he said unto him, dost thou believe on the Son of God? And he answered and said, Who is he, Lord, that I might believe on him? And Jesus said unto him, Thou hast both seen him, and it is he that talketh with thee. Wow. This is one of the times when Jesus reveals who he is to people he has just met. The same thing almost when he met the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, and he told her who he was. He hadn't even told his disciples the same way, the same words. And now this blind man who heard Jesus say that, look at verse 38. And he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. And Jesus said, For judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see, and they which see might be made blind. Wow. And some of the Pharisees were with him and heard these words, and said unto him, Are we blind also? Look at his answer, verse 41. If ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, We see. Therefore your sin remaineth. Powerful. He accused them of being blind. We're going to stop here. Go home, or if you're home, read this whole section again, and you will see the ups and downs of it. It's amazing that Jesus, in many cases, confronted the religious people head to head, face to face, because they were not teaching the people the right things. They were not treating the people right. They were using the people. They were abusing the people. And he became their spokesman in that respect. Again, they had the best food. They lived in the best housing. And yet, they had no pity for the people under them. Next week, we're going to look at chapter 10. And chapter 10 is one of the most powerful chapters in the Bible because Jesus uses the shepherd. You'll find that Jesus, the rabbi, the teacher, used many common things that people were aware of, so that when he spoke spiritually and used things that they were aware of, they could understand what he was saying. And this is one of those cases. He speaks about the good shepherd. Apparently there's a bad shepherd, if there's a good one. And we're going to see how he uses that example to show who he was and who he is and who he was going to be. So listen in next week, and we'll enjoy his conversation concerning the Good Shepherd. God bless you. We miss you. And keep reading the Word. Keep praying. And again, keep praying for a healing in our country, and also for that this disease should disappear. We can do that in the name of Jesus. God bless you.